All right, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to be unpacking a deeply emotional and honestly incredibly vivid excerpt from the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata. Now, we aren't just looking at gods and monsters today, we're diving deep into the intense psychological burden of leadership, family loyalty, and the sheer crushing weight of grief. We're joining the Pandava brothers and their wife Draupadi during their grueling exile in the wilderness as they attempt what looks like an impossibly dangerous ascent up Mount Gandhamadana. So, let's get right into it. Right off the bat, the text drops us into the raw, devastating emotional state of our central figure, Yudhishthira. He's the eldest brother, the leader, and he is watching his family be pushed to their absolute physical and mental limits. The text says, "This burneth me even as fire doth a heap of cotton." I mean, just imagine that imagery. It's highly combustible, instant, and entirely consuming. It shows us that for a leader, watching your loved ones suffer in a wilderness exile isn't just difficult, it's a rapidly spreading internal agony.
And that agony is entirely justified when we look at the obstacles standing in their way. Section 1. The impassable mountain ahead. Facing the terrors of Mount Gandhamadana.
You see, Yudhishthira's anxiety for his family's safety eventually reaches a breaking point. The text tells us this mountain is rugged, inaccessible, and basically infested by rakshasas, which are fearsome beings, and invisible spirits. Faced with all this, Yudhishthira actually issues a 3-step ultimatum to his brothers and wife. He basically says, Step 1, turn back with the servants. Step 2, wait cautiously at the source of the Ganges. And Step 3, let me proceed alone with the Sage Lomasa and just one brother, Nakula. He's desperately trying to be the protective older brother and absorb all the risk himself. But that leads right into Section 2. Bhima's unbreakable vow, the muscle and the devotion. This brilliantly illustrates the character contrast in our story, because here we've got a massive thematic tension built around two totally different ways to overcome this impossible mountain. On one side, we have Bhima's proposition. Bhima is the muscle. He flat out refuses to leave Yudhishthira alone in a Rakshasa-infested region. He essentially says, hey, if we can't use chariots, we'll walk, and if Draupadi or the younger twins get too tired, I will literally carry them over the mountains myself like a giant backpack. He's relying entirely on brute physical devotion. But looking at the other approach, the Sage Lomasa issues a stark warning. He tells them that access to Mount Gandhamadana cannot be brute forced. It is only obtained by dint of asceticism, meaning severe self-discipline and spiritual sacrifices. Basically, you can't just hike this mountain, you have to be spiritually worthy of it. And right in the middle of this intense debate between the guys about physical strength versus spiritual asceticism, we get this wonderful, grounding moment from Draupadi. Despite Yudhishthira agonizing over her tender body and her obvious exhaustion, the text notes that Draupadi simply smiles. She looks at them and cheerfully says she'll be able to go, completely diffusing Yudhishthira's anxiety. It's just this beautiful touch of humanity, a gentle defiance that proves her inner resilience is every bit as strong as Bhima's muscles. Having established their collective resolve that they are all going forward together, they now have to prepare for the reality of Lomasa's warning. Which brings us to Section 3, leaving the retinue behind, shedding the royal identity. So, the group arrives at the frontiers of King Suvahu's domain, the Lord of the Palindas. King Suvahu treats them with the honor due to royalty. But to go any further into the Himalayas, they literally have to leave that royalty behind. As we break it down here, they leave all their cooks, stewards, servants like Indrasena, their horses, their chariots, and all of Draupadi's accoutrements. They shed every single layer of comfort and status. Only the core family and their spiritual guide, Lomasa, proceed. They've completely transformed from exiled kings into true rangers of the wilderness. Now we hit the true heart of this source material. Section 4. The anatomy of grief, the longing for Arjuna. Stripped of their royal entourage, facing the brutal, freezing elements of the Himalayas entirely on foot, the narrative strips away their emotional armor as well. I really want you to listen to this haunting refrain from the text. For this, O Vrikodara, I am miserable. Just a quick side note, Vrikodara is another name for Bhima. Yudhishthira delivers this staggering, heartbreaking monologue to his brother, and he repeatedly anchors his pain with this exact phrase. It acts as a sort of musical, emotional chorus throughout this whole section. So why exactly is he so miserable? Well, everything they're suffering is magnified by the fact that Arjuna isn't there. Yudhishthira completely fixates on the physical memory of his missing brother. He agonizes over the loss of Arjuna's dark blue hue, his powerful leonine or lion-like gait and shoulders, He remembers Arjuna's incomparable energy as an invincible bowman drawn by white steeds. You know, when you lose someone or are separated from them, it's often these highly specific physical traits that haunt your memory the most.
And then, immediately after recalling those physical traits, bam, the text hits us with this painful refrain again. For this, O Vrikodara, I am miserable. It absolutely drives home the reality that human grief really hasn't changed at all. 3,000 years ago, missing a sibling felt just as raw, repetitive, and all-consuming as it does for us today.
Building on that physical prowess, Yudhishthira's grief shifts to Arjuna's complex morality and temperament. He remembers Arjuna as this man of boundless forgiveness, a hero who would show mercy to the meanest individual and extend protection even to a fallen foe. But, and this is a really vital distinction in the text, to a deceitful enemy attempting mischief, Arjuna is described as acting like violent poison. He's the ultimate protector, balancing perfect mercy with absolute lethal justice. And once again, that emotional chorus strikes. It grounds these staggering mythological descriptions of a warrior who is literally like virulent poison, right back down into the heartbreak of a vulnerable older brother wandering through a freezing forest just desperately missing his sibling. Yudhishthira's monologue then expands the scope of his grief. He connects Arjuna directly to their lost legacy. He explicitly points out that it was only through Arjuna's might that they formerly owned measureless precious jewels and a palatial amphitheater that was celebrated throughout the three worlds. All of that was usurped by their enemy, Shriothana. Yudhishthira is realizing that Arjuna wasn't just a brother, he was the very foundation of their prosperity, their safety, and their kingdom. The loss of Arjuna and the loss of their home are intimately intertwined.
This massive outpouring of grief leads Yudhishthira to a powerful realization. Section 5. The Path of the Pure, the Final Ascetic Journey.
So he realizes Bhima's brute strength alone won't bring Arjuna back. If they are going to reunite with him, they absolutely must heed the Sage Lomasa's warning. To find Arjuna, they have to hike completely on foot to Kuvera's beautiful lake on Mount Gandhamadana. As for what they're up against, well, the area features the hermitage of Nara and Narayana and the site of the celebrated jujube tree. But it is intensely guarded by Rakshasas. The text makes it incredibly clear this location cannot be reached by vehicles. Furthermore, it explicitly states that cruel, avaricious, or irascible people can never ever attain this spot. Which brings us to, honestly, my absolute favorite detail from this source material. The mountain itself acts as an environmental filter for the soul. The text warns that those who are impure will be endlessly tormented by the environment. They're going to meet with flies, mosquitoes, tigers, lions, and reptiles. But the pure? The pure will never even come across them. Nature itself literally reads your internal state. If you are harboring greed, cruelty, or a lack of self-control, the mountain will reject you through its beasts. To survive, they must regulate their fare, restrain their senses, and purify their minds. And that is exactly where our source material leaves us hanging today. As we wrap up this explainer, we are left with a vital question. We know Bhima has the physical courage to carry his family up a mountain. We know Draupadi has the resilience to smile through her exhaustion. And we know Yudhishthira has a deep, pure love for his missing brother. But as they step into the unknown, leaving all their comforts behind, will this broken, grieving family be able to restrain their senses enough to pass the mountain's ultimate test? Can they conquer their own minds in order to finally behold Arjuna once more? It's a profound thought to leave you with, that sometimes the greatest obstacle to our destination isn't the physical mountain ahead of us, but the purity of the baggage we carry within. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep exploring.